Hey there everyone, and today I want to talk to you about mental health in 2020. Hi there everyone, my name is Dave, aka Mindset by Dave, and I've been a mindset and mental health coach for the past 4 years, helping people with mental health, mindset, and personal development. If you enjoy the content on here, please hit that subscribe button so you can get notified whenever the new videos come out. And if you want to talk about any of this kind of stuff live, please remember that I stream live on Twitch at 7 p.m. till 10 p.m. every Sunday and at 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. every Tuesday. You can also join our Discord, which all of the links to that are in the description below. So 2020 has undoubtedly been a interesting year, for want of a better word, for absolutely all of us. It's been unlike anything that any of us have ever lived through before, and one of the ways in which it's impacted us is with our mental health. And with the exception of a few people who said actually the slowed down pace of 2020 has given them a great opportunity for their mental health to actually improve, for the vast majority of people it has been a negative impact on mental health. And in this video, I want to talk about a few reasons as to why that may be, based on some of the principles that underpin what exacerbates our mental health. Now, everything I'm going to talk about here is going to be environmental factors that contribute towards our mental health being better or worse. We're not talking about the clinical factors here and how this year has impacted that, just about how the environment around us, the changes in that environment, have impacted us. And I want to talk about mental health in 3 different stages. What we do going in, or the things that we're exposed to, how we feel about the situation, and what we do going out, which is how we react to the things that we are exposed to. So we can often think of the factors of going in as the stresses we're exposed to in our day-to-day life. Now, it'd be silly for me to sit here and say that we didn't have any stresses whatsoever in 2019, and we've suddenly got a new bunch of stresses that have come out of nowhere in 2020. That's not quite a true story. What's more of a true story is the fact that we have different stresses. Now, different stresses bring with them uncertainty. We actually almost get comfortable, or at least familiar, with the stresses that we know. So those things become a little bit more bearable. But then when we're actually presented with new stresses that we've not experienced before, we can sometimes just get easily overwhelmed because we don't know how long that stress is going to be there for. We don't know how long the situation is going to be there for. And we're responding to things that we've not actually ever had practice in responding to before. The list of stresses that you're under right now might be completely different. And especially around things like jobs, if we look at one of the biggest stresses out there, our job or our source of income is one of the biggest that there is. And right now we're in unprecedented circumstances where certain people have got their job cared for in one way, other people in a different way, other people are being just left out to dry. And we can quite easily compare those situations. And usually when we do compare those situations, we often kind of say why our personal situation is worse. The other thing that is providing a large source of stress at the moment is the division between people. And again, we had things to be divided over in 2019, but when we talk about the pandemic and how things are actually dealing with that, we've become more divided than ever before, especially if you look on social media, you watch videos, you listen to podcasts, you see people arguing about how we should be living our lives. And it's very rare that this information is given in a friendly, here's some information kind of way. It's often given in a way where we go on the attack at the opposite side, which actually then makes us feel less connected to each other, which in turn becomes a source of emotional stress. Now, one of the big things is that when we've got all these stresses coming from different angles, we can very easily point to the thing that happens just before the moment that we snap and think, that's what it was. That could be arguing with your partner, or arguing with the kids when they don't go to bed on time, or just kind of getting cut up in traffic. These things can be the thing that actually tips us over the edge. And we often then go on to, this is the part 2, which is how we feel about the stress. We often go on to beat ourselves up about the fact that, I can't believe that thing was what tipped me over. It's not that that thing tipped you over. It's that that thing on top of everything else that was already there tipped you over. Even the most talented juggler in this world can only juggle so many objects. Then there comes to a point that one object is too many. It doesn't mean that that person isn't a good juggler. It just means that they've reached the limits of what they're capable of doing. And that is what is happening to us in society right now. So many of us are reaching the limits of what we're capable of doing. But then what we do is we point to the thing that has just happened and we say, oh, I can't believe it. Can't believe I can't handle that little thing. Now, here's the thing. If you're already under an absolute ton of stress and strain, then you go and beat yourself up about how well you do or don't handle that stress and strain. It's going to be much harder because you're adding an additional stress on top. You're adding this self-loathing on top of there. You've gone from having 99 problems and crumbling to having 100 problems. And we need to actually give ourselves more compassion, be more understanding of ourselves if we're having more days where we struggle right now, because we've never lived through circumstances like this before. And beating ourselves up only makes us feel worse. And that leads us into point 3, because when we feel worse, we reach for coping mechanisms. And some of our healthier coping mechanisms, like going to the gym, hanging out with friends, having a cuddle with your family, those things have been taken away from us. Again, we've got more stresses going in, we feel worse about the stresses that are there, and we've got less ways in which we can remove that stress. You may have relied entirely on the gym, and for 6 months of this year, that was taken away from you. You may have relied entirely on speaking to your friends face to face and having that communication and having that closeness. And that's something that's been controlled or conditioned throughout the course of this year. So it's not uncalled for or unusual at times like this. Not that we've ever had times like this before, but it's not unusual for people to actually then, when they need that coping mechanism and their more healthy coping mechanisms have been taken away, but they reach for the ones that backfire, the boomerangs. They reach for things like alcohol. The statistics on alcohol consumption show that they're up this year on any other year. And that makes perfect sense to me, because if we need to be able to cope with things and so many of the things that we would have used to cope with them before are taken away, we reach for these things. And in light of not actually knowing any alternatives or having never tried out any other alternatives, the brain needs a way to deal with its stress. It needs a way to deal with its strife. It needs a way to deal with its anguish. And it will reach for something. And this is where we need to be right now, is we need to be looking at alternative ways to resolve that situation. We need to be spending less time fighting on Twitter and more time managing our stress levels. We need to spend less time engaging in things like drinking or overeating, and more time trying to develop a new hobby, something that you can put some mindfulness into, something that takes that focus away. I know it probably feels like that doing that, you're pushing the whole world to one side and forgetting that the problem exists. And if you're out there fighting for change, then that's probably not the way that you want to be. But if you're sat at home watching other people fight for change, or fighting from the sidelines and just getting involved in arguments, or just seeing things that bring you down, consuming too much social media, then pushing those things to one side and actually focusing on something that makes you feel better, it's not a bad idea. The game has changed. The 3 components that contribute towards the stresses and strains that we're under, the principles behind those haven't changed, but what actually provides those things has. And as a result, especially when it comes to what are we doing to remove that stress and remove those strains at the other end, we need to start thinking about healthier long-term solutions. And those things, they might not be sexy, they might not be interesting, they might not be exciting going in, like maybe going to the gym was, or going to a sports event with your friends was, or going to a gig was. But they're going to keep you feeling better. They're going to keep you able to do the things that you want to do in life better, able to enjoy things better, better in your relationships, better in your work, or if you're out of work right now, better in the possibility of getting back into work. Looking after yourself so that you can be better for everything else is always the right thing to do. So as always, I hope you've got some value from this. And if you have, please remember to hit that subscribe button. It is priceless for you, but priceless for me. And remember, you can always catch me live on twitch.tv/Mindset by Dave every Sunday from 7 p.m. till 10 p.m. and every Tuesday from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. And I would love to have you as part of that community. I'll see you down there.